Hey, N.A.R.C troopers, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about what happens when you have been kicked to the curb, abandoned, deserted, annihilated, torpedoed, nuclear bomb, and apocalyptic kind of discard, which happens with the narcissist. Ultimately, I want to show you a picture. Everybody see that? What does that look like? What does that look like? It's a dog out on a road by itself, looking confused and not certain about what to do next. Let's talk about that for a second. My ex told me a story about when he was growing up, how his mother and he had taken a couple of pets, and it was just kind of a thing that happened from time to time, and they had driven them out to some remote location and then just left them. Just let this dog out of the car and drove away. And I was appalled at that, and I thought, oh my gosh, who does that? I know people do that, but I can't believe you did it, or people in your family did that. And like, what were you thinking? What did you think was going to happen to that dog that you just left in the middle of nowhere? And he said, well, I'm sure it was okay. Probably found a new family, or, lived in the wild, and there's plenty to eat and whatever. And so, it was just, we couldn't take care of it, circumstances, blah, blah, blah. That should have been a red flag right there, that this is a person who just doesn't get it. This is a person who's broken and flawed in some way. Red flag, red flag. Lack of empathy, compassion, lack of guilt. What do you think happens to animals in those situations? I think more times than not, they're hit by a car, they starve or are dehydrated and suffer a slow death that takes maybe weeks before they actually perish. Perhaps predators get them and swoop down and eat them up. Hopefully that's quick. But, any way you look at it, it's anguish, it's suffering, it's fear. The animal is confused. It doesn't know what it did wrong to be thrown away and discarded like trash. It wants to go home, but it's lost. It doesn't know what to do, where to go. It's just horrific. It's cruelty. It's inhumane in every way. So when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, a sociopath, psychopath, it's the same thing that happens to us. We are driven out to a remote location. We are put out of the car. We are left to die in the wilderness. We're left to survive. And, the people drive away, never look back, never think about it, never consider, wow, this is a bad thing. This person's going to suffer and to have, they might not be okay. So there's a couple of things to think about when you're in that situation, because that's exactly what happens. It's just like the dog that's discarded in the wilderness. That's what's happened to many of us when we are in relationships with these disordered people. And they don't understand why we're suffering. Why don't we just snap out of it and move on, and just be like them? Never think about it. Just flip a switch, push a button, boom, everything's fine. No problem, no sadness, no guilt, no regret, no missing them, no, I wonder if they're okay, none of that. No attachment whatsoever, just complete annihilation, suddenly, abruptly, like flipping a switch. It's really hard to wrap your mind around that. So I have a couple of things for survival. Just like that dog that you saw in the picture, one of the first things you have to do is find shelter. Food, water. I have sat with a lot of women in support groups, narcissistic abuse recovery groups, and church groups and whatnot, who have lost everything. They're narcissists, they're sociopath, or whoever this disordered person is has taken everything from them and left them with nothing, and doesn't seem to have a problem with that. So just the survival of those basics, of course, is the first step. Secondly, I think we have to avoid predators. There are people in this world, narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths, who smell blood in the water just like sharks. They're constantly moving, looking for food, looking for fuel, looking for supply. And, you are fresh meat. You are a bloody mess. You're wounded. You're bleeding out. They're like turkey vultures or any other predator in the wild. If you're injured or sick or weak, you're going to get eaten. You're going to get eaten. And it's the same with people. At times like this, when we're wounded, we're injured, we're bleeding, we are prime candidates for the next predator to come along and do us in. So we got to be wary for that. Another thing is that we have to find our tribe or support network, like that dog in the wilderness. If he can find another dog or a pack of dogs or something, there's power in numbers, there's strength in numbers. None of us can really do this alone. And I have been shocked to see that I wasn't the only one that was completely without friends or family when this happened to me 7 months ago, because I spent all my time at work or with him. I had no time to cultivate friends, and they have a wonderful way of separating you from your family and isolating you from the people that should be your support work. They have a way of making them disappear too. So there was no one. And I had to get out there and find my tribe of people to replace him. So that's important, that there's power in numbers, and that we gather together and we find that new community and group of people who understand what's going on. They speak the language. This isn't for everybody. I had someone tell me when this first happened, they said, "This is too much. Please forgive me for backing away from this, but it's too much. It's like you're on fire, and if I stand too close, I'm going to catch on fire also, and I just can't." And some people don't understand it. They just think, "Oh my gosh, just get over it already. What is wrong with you?" And unless you've been through it, you don't understand it sometimes. But there are people out there who do, and you have to find them. You have to find them if you want to survive. And I think the last part is, I remember as a child, I watched The Incredible Journey, and I watched those 3 animals travel cross country to get back to their owners. And there's many parts of me that want to do that. My ex-husband, he moved all the way across the country, like 600 miles away, went to California to start over there. That's very typical, that they just drop everything here, leave it behind, burn it to the ground, and start fresh somewhere else. When he did that, even 6 months later, 6.5 months later, recently, I have felt a compulsion just to show up and go there, to be that animal that goes cross country on this trek, to be reunited with my person, with my human. And he was my human. And I think that we have a tendency to want to go back to them and to try to make sense of it, try to have some closure, try to get them to try again. They don't, like, how did this happen? It was so sudden. It was so unexpected. It was blindsided us out of nowhere. How could it be, I love you 1 minute, and then 10 minutes later, I'm leaving, I want a divorce? That is very typical, especially of covert narcissists, that it just comes out of nowhere and boom, they're gone. And they never look back. It's like we never existed. So we have to, it's not a matter of letting go of them, because they're already gone. They probably left us a long time before. But what it is it's a matter of accepting that they were never really there anyway. Even if it was 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, they weren't in it in the same way that we are, that we're capable of doing. They don't know how to love that way. They don't have a conscience or any feeling of responsibility or obligation or morality, no moral compass, none of that. And so it's not a matter of letting go of something. You can't let go of something you don't even have. It's a matter of accepting this is what happened here. I was with a person who is incapable of giving me what I need, incapable of loving me like a normal person would love someone else. You couldn't hurt that person because it would hurt you to hurt them. They don't get that. Just don't get it. And so you've been with someone who is so disordered that they are incapable of having those emotions that make you human. So you just have to accept that. It's not a matter of letting go. It's a matter of accepting the reality and staying in the reality, no matter how much you're tempted to go cross country and be reunited with your human. No, that's not going to work. And you have to accept what has happened, the reality of it. They cannot give you what you need because they don't have it. It's not like they just have it and they won't give it to you. They're incapable of even knowing what it is. They've never experienced it. My ex said, just flip it off. Turn off all your feelings and suffering. It's okay. Just go be happy. Go out, start your single life. Do what I do. I'm having a blast. They don't get it. They don't understand how that's not possible, sometimes for a long time. So acceptance is something super hard, but we have to get there if we're going to survive. So we're like that animal that has been driven out into some remote location and just dumped like trash onto the road. If you have been discarded by a narcissist, sociopath, or psychopath, that's what has happened to you. And if you want to survive, you have to do these things. The shelter, the tribe of people, the avoiding the predators, and mostly the accepting of what has happened, and just get up and let's just get on and move forward, because that's really the only choice we have, right? Get up, get on with our lives, and move forward. So that's my message for today. I hope that resonated with you in some way. I know some of you were not the ones that were discarded, but you actually had the chutzpah to actually be the one to leave, and that's great. Some of us were too addicted or too codependent or too trauma bonded or whatever to be able to do that. And if you were able to do it, I'm sure the suffering is equally as horrible, but at least you have that dignity of not just being driven out into the country and thrown out like trash. It's a tough thing to deal with. But it is what it is. And survival is everything. We're going to make it. And troopers, look forward, look in front of you. There's good stuff coming. We have to believe that and keep moving towards it. It's going to be okay. Have a good week. Bye-bye.